Hello friends! Get ready with me for date night. Single Girl Diaries. Okay, so first thing I like to do when I'm getting ready is my first layer of fragrance. I like to start with fragrance, smelling good throughout my get ready time. And then I like to reapply. I overdo it on the fragrance. Like, I know some people are just, but for me it's like and then I also do the body milk when I wear Miss Dior fragrance. I do the body milk on my chest and my upper arms. So yeah, I love fragrance, especially when it's a more subtle fragrance. I like to really overdo it a little bit. Okay, so we're having a little date night tonight. I'm not going to tell you who I'm going on a date with. I'm not going to give any indication of who I'm going on the date with, but I am going on a date. It is not a first date. Not a first date, and that's all I'll say for now. I haven't been going on dates for a very long time. I was in a relationship for about a year, maybe a little over a year, all things considered, like from when we started going on dates to when we decided to amicably end things. No bad vibes to the person I was in a relationship with at all good vibes, positive energy. We're so fucking grateful. We're so effing grateful for our exes in this house, okay? So no bad vibes to the person I was in a relationship with at all. Just didn't work out. And I am not necessarily dating right now. I am not on the dating apps. I don't think I will really ever go back on to the dating apps. Not my scene. I don't think that's for me. I am not necessarily putting myself in a ton of situations to meet people to go on dates with, right? However, I did meet someone organically. I'm not going to give any details of how, because I'm not going to give away at all who this person is. But met someone organically, and we ended up going on a date. I'm not going to do a story time at all. Maybe someday we'll do a story time, but I feel like to do a dating story time, things really need to be said and done. Like, I love watching funny story times on YouTube of women talking about dating experiences they've had and how they started and how they ended. And I love that, like, single girl genre story time of YouTube. But first of all, what if the person I'm going out with sees this? I don't want to be oversharing. And second of all, I feel like I will have oversharing like fatigue. I don't want this to be something where I'm constantly updating you all on the latest development in my dating life. But a get ready with me for a date night here or there could be fun. I love the subject of dating. I made a podcast episode for the 10 Pages podcast months ago called Unsolicited Dating Advice, and I gave my unsolicited dating advice. I was recently looking through the notes from that episode, and I think it'd be funny to talk a little bit about where my head was at back then as compared to where my head is at now. I made that episode about dating based on kind of where my head was at when I was single last, which was about a year and a half ago, when I was really like single and I was on the dating apps and I was going on a lot of dates. I was scheduling a lot of dates like weekly. I was making dating a sport, a full-time job, if you will. It's just really funny to see where my head was at back then as compared to nowadays, when dating is not such a priority like it was for me then. I will say at that time I was unhappy with being single, and that's not where my head is at this time. Like, I will use the word, I was slightly a little bit more desperate back then. I was like really desperately wanted to be in a partnership, a relationship. So that was really driving me to take dating really seriously and to make it a really big priority in my life. That's not where my head is at this time, but there's also some other things in those notes from that episode I did that it just make me laugh looking back, so I'll talk about that in a minute. But for further context, I love, and I love the study of love and relationships. I just do. I think it's so fascinating that there are people in the world who are professional thinkers about love and relationships. Think the Carrie Bradshaws of the world, the real world. And when I did these podcast episodes in the past for the 10 Pages podcast about dating and relationships, books I'd read about relationships and things like that, I called it the Carrie Bradshaw era. And I had like a sub page on the 10 Pages website that was like Carrie Bradshaw era episodes. And it was, you know, episodes that were about love, relationships, sex, dating, whatever. There are people out there who really are, for part of their professional career, they think about love and relationships. Obviously, I'm thinking about bell hooks as I say that. I'm obsessed with bell hooks, All About Love. It literally changed my life. It actually is one of my top 5 to 10 favorite books of all time. Made an impact in my life for sure. There are other people. I read a book by Scott M. Peck. He's a psychiatrist. He wrote a book called The Road Less Traveled. The Road Less Traveled was about a lot of different things in life, in like the arena of kind of like mental health and well-being. I'm gonna apply some lotion while we talk. I read the book because The Road Less Traveled was really heavily cited by bell hooks in All About Love. I was interested in reading more of the like original source material, basically. The Road Less Traveled is fascinating. I highly recommend it to anyone who's interested in like love and relationship studies. I just find stuff like that so fascinating. I think it's so interesting that there are people like Scott M. Peck, like bell hooks. I often will talk to my therapist. I'm very open about going to therapy. I have no problem discussing my therapy publicly, that I go to therapy, not at all. Mental health is super important to me, but I think it's so fascinating that when I do talk about relationships in therapy, my therapist has done research and is paid, and it is her career to think deeply and to research the scientific peer-reviewed journal articles out there about for example, she told me that couples that get engaged or married before they move in together actually have lower rates of divorce as compared to couples that move in together before making the commitments of engagement or marriage. So people that move in together before getting engaged or marriage actually have higher rates of divorce than couples who wait to move in together until they've taken that commitment step. I find that fascinating that is peer-reviewed academic journal article stuff. That is the stuff of actual peer-reviewed academic journal articles. And my therapist is like paid to know that kind of stuff. I just find it completely fascinating. Anyway, this is like a long-winded way of saying that I'm fascinated with the actual study of love and relationships. I am envious of people who have made a career out of it, and I like to do my own little love and relationship studies. This really started when I was going through a breakup in 2022. I really over-intellectualized the experience of going through a breakup. I read Plato's Symposium. If you studied political science at all, you know who Plato is. If you are a person in the universe, you probably know who Plato is, a philosopher of ancient times, an OG philosopher that you learn about in many intro to philosophy, intro to theory courses. And Plato's Symposium is actually about love. And it is the first kind of recorded discussion of twin flames. And I won't get into what twin flames are, but if you know what they are, the first kind of talk of a twin flame is in Plato's Symposium. So I read Plato's Symposium going through a breakup, over intellectualizing the breakup, and that's really where my Carrie Bradshaw era began. You know, the next summer, read all about love. I've read Communion by Bell Hooks. I've read The Road Less Traveled by Scott M. Peck. I've read Tomorrow Sex Will Be Good Again by Catherine Angel. I have read Pleasure Activism by Adrienne Marie Brown. I really love this realm of studies. It is a little passion project for me. So anyway, I should probably start getting ready. I'm just rambling, but we're gonna start with, we're doing super minimal makeup today. So we're gonna start with eyebrows. Also, when I was single, the last time I was single, I just became really intrigued by the dating expert and dating advice content that's out there on the internet. There are a lot of people on the internet making a career out of dating advice content, like Sabrina Zohar, Matthew Hussey. He's a big dog in that field, I feel like. Jillian on Love, Jillian Turek. Therapy Jeff does a lot of relationship stuff on social media. So anyway, I'm listing these people off. Clearly you can see I am an aficionado of the dating relationship advice expert content out there on the internet. I just find it fascinating, and I wasn't taking this stuff super seriously back in the day when I was looking at it all, and it's still, I followed some of it, and it's still, I feel like it's very dominant on social media, so it does still, for me, pop up on Instagram or what have you. I wasn't ever getting into this stuff because I felt that it was a real, intensely helpful guide to modern dating, but it gave interesting food for thought, for sure. I did start to develop my own opinions on the kind of rules to dating and the advice that these quote-unquote experts would give. I made a podcast episode called Unsolicited Dating Advice, in which I talked about some of the advice these experts would give and gave my take on it and whether I agreed with it or not. So don't think I was taking all this dating advice content at face value. I was actually just wanted to hear different opinions and consider different things. That's kind of some context and background. Now we're gonna do a Rhode pocket blush in this date cake color. But that's kind of some context and background on me and relationship dating advice kind of content. I was recently looking at the notes in my notes app that I wrote out for my podcast episode, for 10 Pages podcast about dating advice. And I was just curious, what was my advice back then? Where was my head at, and what kind of stuff was I saying back then? The first thing I wrote in my notes app, the first piece of advice I gave in this podcast episode was date 3 people at a time. Was I okay? Was I okay? Like, date 3 people at a time was my number one piece of dating advice, was date 3 people at a time. First of all, that is such a dating app culture kind of way of thinking, because when you're on the dating apps, it is possible to date 3 people at a time. When you're just meeting people organically, it's much more challenging to meet 3 people to date at one time. Now, I will give myself a little bit of credit here. I think that I have heard actual dating experts and dating like scientists and actual relationship coaches, if you will. I have heard professional people give the advice that if you go on a good date, go on a few more. And I don't think that's terrible advice. And I don't mean it in a way of like to play games or to, be gamey with it at all. That's not how I intend that, but if you go on a date that you feel is really great, it may be helpful to go on 1, 2, 3 more dates just to make sure that you really do like this person that you went on the date with, and just to make sure it was as good as you kind of felt it was, right? And if you go on these more dates and you think, wow, I really have a connection with that person I went on the original date with, and these other people kind of like don't compare, then you have some information there that this person you went out with, you guys do have a connection or chemistry or whatever it may be at that point. I can see where that makes sense to go on if you go on a date that you enjoyed, to go on 1 to 3 more. But again, this is dating app culture, because it's not so easy to, when you're meeting people organically, to go out and meet 1 to 3 more people to go on dates with immediately. You know, it's just not that, it's not that simple. I actually have a little bit of a pimple, which drives me nuts because I do wild amount of skincare. I love skincare, so it drives me nuts when I get a pimple, but we're gonna cover that up with a little bit of this YSL skin tint, just a tiny drop. So yeah, date 3 people at a time was my advice, and I think that advice is quite honestly a bit wacky. So that's where my head was at back then when I was dating. It was date 3 people at a time, and I really was dating 3 people at a time back then, like pretty much at all times. Well, not at all times. I won't say that in case some people are watching this, because I don't want them to think I was dating 3 people while I was dating them. Okay, I'm just gonna do a little bit of this Cosmic Dancer Ilia highlight. I'm not going to go through all the advice I gave in that podcast episode. If you're interested in hearing that podcast episode, you can go and listen to it on Spotify under the 10 Pages podcast page. Yeah, I feel like the date 3 people at a time was a little bit wild, but other than that, I kind of stand by all the other advice I suggested in that podcast episode. I think that it was all pretty sound advice. My big piece of advice at the end was 10 date, 3 month, 12 week rule. I kind of lumped that all together as the same thing. Different dating experts and dating people will suggest that when you are dating someone, it's a pretty good rule of thumb to think in terms of like, once you've been dating the person for 3 months or for 10 dates or for 12 weeks, which is about the same amount of time, like altogether. Like if you're dating for 3 months, you've probably been on more than 10 dates maybe, but around 10 dates, 10 to 15 dates. If you've been dating for 12 weeks, you've been on 10 to 15 dates at that point, right? So it's a good rule of thumb that if you've been dating someone for that amount of time, they should be your significant other at that point. You know, you should have it locked down at that point. And I tend to agree with that advice, just because once you've been dating for that amount of time, I think that you both kind of know what your intentions are with each other. And I think that it's a good point to make a commitment to be exclusive or to put a label on it, because yeah, you've been dating for a significant amount of time at that point. And I just think that once you date beyond that amount of time, it starts to be a situationship. I mean, you're entering into situationship territory at that point. And if that's not what you want, if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for something more casual, then by all means, whatever. But if you're looking to have a more committed relationship, once it's been 3 months with the person you're seeing, once it's been 10 dates, once it's been 12 weeks, around that time, it's obviously it's an inflexible rule, so you have to you have to take into account circumstances. What if someone was traveling? What if there was a death in the family? What if someone was really sick? You know, you have to take these things into account for sure. So it needs to be more flexible than a lot of the people promoting it tend to allow for. At that point, I do think that the people dating each other should know what their intentions are with each other and if they want to get more serious or if they want to keep it more casual. I do think that that's a good rule of thumb, something to consider in dating and relationships. We're gonna move on to the eyes now. I am gonna do some eyeliner, which I hate doing on camera because I do it wrong, but I'm getting better. Honestly, all my life, I've pulled my eye out to the side like that to do my eyeliner, and I know that gives you wrinkles, and I know that's like, you're not supposed to do that, but I've always done it. But ever since I started doing my eyeliner on camera, I've started doing it just without pulling my eye to the side. It's still really hard to talk while I do it. Cool. r.e.m. Beauty liquid eyeshadow is going on. Yeah, but overall, that dating advice I gave was all pretty on point. I did say in the podcast that you shouldn't text all day every day. I stand by that 100%. I feel like in modern dating, there's so much texting, especially when you meet on the dating apps. You can get into these like very long periods of just text exchanges with each other without ever like actually meeting each other. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's how dating should go. I think that you should kind of, you know, it's so difficult and it varies kind of person to person and relationship to relationship. Circumstances always have to be taken into account, but it's really nice sometimes when someone will just, if you match on the dating apps, like when someone just says, let's meet up in person, you know, like off the bat, like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow night? Road lip shape is going on. I don't think you need to text all day every day. People these days are so hung up on the good morning text. And I think it's Sabrina Zohar that talks about this a lot. The good morning text just doesn't mean what you think it does. Like, it just doesn't mean as much as you think it does. Like, it doesn't take any effort to send a good morning text. This is what Sabrina Zohar really says a lot. I've been in stages of my life where I'm waking up in the morning to like 10 good morning texts. Sorry, I've been there. That's been a stage of my life. Like, I'm not particularly proud of it, but it's true. And, you know, the good morning text just doesn't mean as much as you might think it means. Like, he doesn't have to send you a good morning text to be thinking about you or to be taking you seriously in dating. A green flag to me is when we don't talk every day, or when we don't talk 24/7 every day, I should say. It's nice to check in every day or every other day in early dating, or a few times a week in early dating, but at the very beginning of dating, you shouldn't be texting 24/7 all day, every day. Like, what are you doing now? Oh, I'm on my lunch break. What are you doing? Like, oh, I'm doing this or that. Like, that is not necessary. Like, and that just doesn't build, that's not the stuff that strong relationships are built of, in my opinion. In my unsolicited, non-expert, who asked for this opinion. All right, so at this point I did the lip shape. Now do I want to do PB&J Road lip tint or just a little glow oil? I think because I really overdid it on the lip shape, I'm gonna do the lip tint to kind of cover that up. Yeah, I do think that texting in early dating is like, don't do too much of it. Like, it actually makes it weird because you're like, I know this person so well, we have a rapport over text, but then in real life, like, how do I catch up to where I'm at with them on the phone, you know? Yeah, it's just an interesting thing to navigate in early dating. Like, never hearing from them between dates, never hearing from them isn't a good feeling, but there is such a thing, I think, as hearing from them too much, maybe. Yeah, I just yapped to you all while I did my makeup, and I think we're just gonna leave it at this, just super minimal makeup. Not super minimal, I did a little bit of stuff here, but like not the most minimal. Sometimes I just do some blush and lip and call it a day, but we did do some blush, we did do some highlight, we did do some eyeshadow, and we did do some eyeliner, and we did do a lip. Now it's time to pick an outfit, which I have an outfit picked out, but you're all gonna get dressed with me. Okay, so I'm just not really comfortable with getting changed on camera right now, and I have to put on a dress, and I'm just not comfortable being in my undergarments on camera to get into the dress. So let's do that thing where it's just like, all right, so I'm in the dress that I'm gonna wear tonight, and I really hate this camera angle, but it is what it is. This is near my closet, and so this is right now my closet camera angle that I'm going with. But I picked out the dress. I know for sure I'm wearing this dress, but I don't know how I'm styling it yet. So you're all going to style it with me. We have a couple of shoe options. First shoe option is from For Love and Lemons. They're in this bag. And second shoe option is Doc Martens, and I really like this look, and I think this is more appropriate. Actually, we're not even gonna do the For Love and Lemons. So the For Love and Lemon shoes are so cute, and I'll wear them all summer, but they're this gingham heel. They're still brand new, but they're this gingham heel. So very, very cute, love, but we're dressing this dress down, not up. That's the vibe tonight for tonight's date night. Since we are gonna go with the Doc Martens, I'm gonna put on these black Keds socks. We'll slide on the boot, just got them, they're kind of new. So here's the fit. Don't mind the dirty mirror, but we've got, yeah, the sort of motorcycle boot with the kind of lacy, I mean, it's kind of like lingerie dressing, but we're dressing it down with this boot, and it's honestly such a cute look. And like, I'm just gonna talk for a minute about body positivity. I have had weight fluctuations in my life recently, and I was very thin for a long time. Not a long time, but for several years there in my early 20s and my late teens and early 20s, I was very thin, but it was not a healthy weight for me. I was too skinny, honestly. It's not that I was too skinny, it was that I was skinny for the wrong reasons. I was very stressed out. I had undiagnosed mental health issues going on, and I was very stressed out. I was stressed out with my life. I was in law school, and even before that, I was just very stressed out with my life. I was a constantly stressed person. I haven't been stressed in years. Like, I'm not super stressed out like that anymore in my life, which is such a blessing and so great. I was also, to be quite honest, I did not have a great relationship with some substances that were causing me to keep the weight off and things like that. So all of that is like very honest and like very vulnerable to share on the internet, but I have gained weight in the last couple of years since that era of my life. I was very uncomfortable in my body for a little bit there. I had some growing pains with getting comfortable in my body with some more weight on it, but lately I've been like really feeling pretty like confident in my body, and I don't know if it's just because I've gotten more used to my weight at where it's at now, or if it's because I filled out a little bit more. Like maybe I had some growing pains from being like super rail thin to having some meat on my bones, and I kind of filled my body out in a way that I'm more comfortable with. I don't know what it is. Just a little bit body talk. Everyone's journey is very different, but this is mine, and I think it's important to just like be honest and share. Back to the outfit, we've got the boots, we've got the boot choice picked out, and now we're gonna pick a jacket. Okay, these two jackets, okay? Very similar leather jackets. This one's more of just like a leather jacket. This one's more of like a bomber with like a canvas-ish vibe, and then leather sleeves, and it's got these pins and patches, and this one says lost, which is funny because my last video I did the "Are you lost?" sticker on my film camera. If you're watching, if you're following along, then you remember. This jacket honestly has a great story to it. It's ripped tag from Coach. My good friend gave it to me. She runs a nonprofit in Pittsburgh, and the nonprofit she runs takes a lot of donations from big companies like Coach and Kate Spade and Banana Republic and r.e.m and IKEA, and gets these donations and then distributes it for free to the community, to different communities throughout Pittsburgh and in Braddock, Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh. So my friend who runs that nonprofit, a couple years ago, I was helping out at an event at the nonprofit, and she came running out of her warehouse and she was like, "Look what I have for you." And she was like, "You're the only person," like I saw it and I thought of you, right? These two jackets do give off a different vibe. I do really like that this has this sort of brownish color thread through it, because this dress is obviously like a brown and black situation. So I do like that it kind of like keeps that vibe, and then my boots are brown, so it kind of keeps, I really like what's going on like colorways wise. I think this jacket's gonna win the day, but it's also very nice out. It's like in the 70s or almost 80 degrees outside, so I'm not gonna probably, oh, date night is dinner. We're going to dinner, just a dinner. Just a casual dinner. I'll probably wear the jacket while I eat, but maybe not when I like am walking into the restaurant or walking out or whatever. We'll see what the temperature is like. But this leather jacket, no story to this leather jacket. It's just a leather jacket that I got online. This is a bit more coverage. It's like very similar in length to the dress. So, and it's just black, which is fine. I like it. This just isn't doing it for me, honestly. Like the length of it, I just feel like the other jacket, I feel like it's honestly a no-brainer. The other jacket is way better. Final fit is this jacket, this dress, these boots. Okay, so we're back at the vanity because I did say that the first and last thing I like to do is fragrance. And now that I'm dressed, I'm going to add another layer of fragrance. I did spray a lot on, so it's not gonna be too much, but I am gonna do the Body Milk. It's a little goes a long way, I feel like. Nice, love, it smells divine. And just while we're at it, just one more spritz, because I love Miss Dior, but it's like one of the cheaper, more affordable perfumes from Dior, and there is a reason why, I feel like, for that. Okay, and kind of the last thing I'm gonna do, I'm a Dior girly. I don't know if I've mentioned that on this channel. I think I have. So we're going to put on some Dior Solar, which I have not used since like a very long time. So we're gonna see, it's like all sitting at the bottom here. It's breaking up a little. It's looking way different. And a little bit of this goes a really long way, and it's like very oily, so we don't want to overdo it at all. Just a little bit. You can always put on more, never less. So just do a few drops in the palm of my hand and apply up here on my arms a little bit. And it is just called the Subliminating Oil. It's just a literal oil. It's meant for summer, and I should have done self-tanner last night if I was gonna be putting this on, but it's also not a big deal. We'll just do a few more drops and apply, dab a little bit on over the makeup. I hope it doesn't take my makeup off. This might be a bad idea, but Just kind of, usually I'd put it on like on first kind of with foundation, but it's looking good. It doesn't look like it took my makeup off, and I'm just getting a nice glow. So I'm like, I always overdo it with this stuff, so I'm just gonna do a little bit more on my arms. Ooh, and then I'm gonna do my legs too because my legs are out. So yeah, just lather it on. Some sparkles. And yeah, I should have done self-tanner last night if I knew I was gonna be putting this stuff on, but it's also fun just the way I am. So that is Dior Solar Sublimating Oil. That's really our last step. And then with anything that may be left at this point, it is for your hair as well. It doesn't really show up in my hair, but sparkly oil in the hair never hurt nobody. All right, so we're gonna grab our lip and throw it in the bag. Let's go pack our bag for a date. All right, friends, so now we're gonna do a little what's in my bag date edition. I'm using my Telfar, my Oxblood Telfar, and we've got kind of a lot of stuff that we're bringing along. So of course we have our phone, keys, wallet, phone, wallet, keys, and I actually have the matching Oxblood Telfar wallet. So we've got our phone, wallet, keys, the basics, and then we've got our PB&J Road lip, which we're gonna put in my makeup bag. There's a little miniature Miss Dior, so throw that in the bag. A compact mirror, Dior, and my Chanel hand cream, which we might as well throw on right now. So we've got our makeup pouch, throw that in the bag. Next we've got my Prada sunnies. Love these sunnies. It probably will be still light out when I go on this date, so I probably will be wearing my sunnies when I stroll up to the restaurant. Next, I am going to bring a little miniature rider tarot deck. Don't think we'll use this at the table at dinner. I do think it could be fun to have just in case, or if we end up going somewhere after dinner, this could be a fun little party trick. It's just perfect for a purse, and we're gonna throw it in the bag. Finally, I have the We're Not Really Strangers Honest Dating Expansion Pack. So I told you all this is not a first date. It is not a first date. This Honest Dating Expansion Pack is perfect for an early date. I'll expose myself and say that this is in fact an early date. Yeah, so the back of this Honest Dating Expansion Pack says, what if dating was as simple as getting to know another human being? No games, just this one. Super fun little game. If you've never played We're Not Really Strangers game, there's 3 levels of cards inside. There's level 1, which says perception. There's level 2, which says connection. And there's level 3 for reflection. And each level just asks like varying levels of intimate questions. And the Honest Dating Expansion Pack is really geared towards helping you get to know another person. So what do you think I was like in high school? Explain. That is a level 1 card. And then we have a level 2 card. What have you tolerated from others in the past that you no longer have space for? That's a good question to ask in an early date. I would say just like poor communication. All right, and level 3, reflection. What part of my personality isn't showcased online? That's an interesting one for me, you know, for someone to answer about me. So that's some examples of the We're Not Really Strangers Honest Dating Expansion Pack. I think that this could make for great conversation, especially if we kind of run out of things to talk about and discuss. That's What's in My Bag Date Edition. The only thing missing is you all. I am going to bring my vlogging camera on this date and show you all where we end up going. Thanks for getting ready with me. Thanks for packing my bag with me. And it's probably about time for me to hit the road and get on my way. So can't wait to show you all the place we're going for dinner and tell my date that he can expect get ready with me for a date on the internet. But no, none of you are gonna figure out or know who he is at all by this video alone. So it's all good. But yeah, thanks for helping me get dressed. Thanks for helping me do my makeup. Thanks for helping me pack my bag. See you all on the flip side. We're walking to Carmela's and I'm gonna take the little bit longer way because I'm slightly early. I'm fine with getting there a little early though because I do want to record in the restaurant and show you guys the restaurant we're going to dinner at. It's a literally beautiful day. I'm regretting wearing this dress because at least up where I live, it was really windy outside when I walked out of the house. It's not too windy here, but like this dress is a bit risque in the wind, I will say. It's like flies all over the place. That's okay, that's all right. We live and whatever. Oh, look at how pretty. Like the Pittsburgh cherry blossoms. And my hair is blowing in the wind. Okay, we're getting onto the main road here, so I'm gonna turn you off because it's a busy part of the city and I don't feel like dealing with vlogging in public, but I'm getting better. I just walked down the street talking to you all. I'm getting better, but I will whip out my camera in the restaurant to show you all where we're having dinner.